Welcome to Vote 2017. I'm Teresa Whipple, and I am here today with Kyoko Matsumoto Wright, Mountlake Terrace City Council member who's running for re-election to position 4. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me.
We're going to talk about some issues facing the city of Mountlake Terrace, but before we get to that, tell me about yourself and how long you've lived in Mountlake Terrace and what your interest is in running for re-election.
Well, I moved to Mountlake Terrace in 1983, toward the end of 1983, and I've been in that same house this whole time. I raised my son in Mountlake Terrace. He went to Mountlake Terrace Elementary and graduated from Mountlake Terrace High School, and I just fell in love with the city. And I just decided that I wanted to do a little bit more than just be a citizen.
Right. And so you were elected the first time in what year?
Well, I was appointed in 2008, January 2008, and I've been re-elected twice since then.
Okay, great. Well, let's get to issues. What are the top 3 issues that you see facing the city, and maybe if you have 1 or 2 in particular that you think you want to work on when you, for your next term, if you're elected?
Well, the top 3 would be getting our new city hall, which we'll hopefully talk about a little bit later.
Yeah.
But we need to get a new city hall. We also need to be ready for light rail when it arrives in now 2024. Hopefully 2023 still, but still, so we have to be ready for that. So our town center has to be up and going. We have to have the housing needs that we're probably going to be facing. And then the other thing that we need to look at is getting Ballinger Park into the wonderful park that we want it to be, and that's going to cost money. Right now, it's a former golf course, and so it has trees that are planted there to be for a golf course and not trees for a park. So we want to have paths put in, we want to have a dock moved, we want to have a boardwalk. All of those dreams will come later, but we want to get started on it.
Right, and when I hear you talking about that, and I've actually heard you talk about some of this in council meetings that I've been to too, a lot of the things that are on the plate for Mountlake Terrace are going to require financial investment, and of course you're going out to voters to ask for a city hall, Proposition 1, and we'll talk about that more in a bit, but also the recreation pavilion needs some upgrades. Ballinger Park is something that I think everybody's really excited to be able to see, and as somebody who's in charge of kind of talking about those issues and figuring out how to prioritize them in conjunction with the staff. How difficult is that for all of you, for you in particular, to kind of sort that out? Because it seems like a big challenge.
Well, it is. Everything costs money, and I don't want to keep asking for citizens for everything. So we are very successful with getting grants from the federal government and the state government. We do have lobbyists at both levels, and they have really, really been wonderful, and we've gotten so much money. And we have to continue to get that, and hopefully we'll be successful in getting more. So we need, again, we need to have a city hall. We're not going to be able to rent for much longer, so we need to get that going. And the recreation pavilion, that was built in 1968. It's going to be 50 years next year, and it has a lot of issues. And I know that even though we have a pool in Shoreline and Linwood, for some reason people come from all over to our pool. I know that my friends who live in downtown Seattle drive all the way to Mountlake Terrace to use our pool.
Yeah,
it's just amazing.
That's great. Well, and all the more reason to, look at how you can upgrade and restore and make it usable for another 50 years.
Yes.
Yeah. And in terms of City Hall, let's talk a little bit about that. Of course, Proposition 1, which will be on the ballot, calls for a $12.5 million proposal to build a City Hall, which right now the city has been renting an interim City Hall, and this will be the 4th attempt to pass. Is it on the ballot 3 times before? Is that right?
I think it is the 4th.
Yeah. And of course, this is a much more modest proposal, scaled down financially. And it also includes some money to remodel the police station.
To expand the
police station. That's the correct term.
Right.
Yeah. Which I know has been a concern for
Yes.
folks. So are you feeling, I mean, you support the proposal, I'm assuming?
Definitely.
Okay.
I know that we've been criticized in the past for having a dollar amount that was so large. But in the very beginning, we were looking at what the citizens wanted, because we asked the citizens, what do you want? And so if we did everything that the citizens wanted, we would have had to add this and that and so forth. And one of the things that I don't think that a lot of people knew was that it was up to that amount. So if we didn't use it all, but a lot of times people are not comfortable with politicians.
Yeah.
When you say, well, we're going to give you X amount of dollars, they think that you're going to use it all. I think that our city council and our staff, we're very, very cost conscious, and I don't think that would have happened. But since the first time we went to ballot, there are several things that happened. One, we purchased another half of the Public Works building from the city of Linwood, and so we could move all of our staff and everything over there. And so that freed up a lot of room. And then the golf course closed down, so that clubhouse is now used for this senior center, which we were going to provide them a place at the city hall, and we don't have to do that anymore. And then we just looked at a lot of different things. We cut corners, and so and if we want to do other things for the citizens of the city, we can always add on to that later on, like a plaza, and they wanted a outdoor plaza for farmers markets. Mm-hmm. And if that were to happen later, we can probably do that later. It doesn't have to be immediately. We also didn't need a big space for, again, the seniors and other things. We do need some space for the arts show that we have every year, because they're really, really cramped in our library. Mm-hmm. But again, that's something that we can look into later. But for right now, we really need a city hall.
Yeah.
City council chambers and a place for our employees to be.
Okay. All right. And you mentioned town center. Yes. And obviously that's something that is moving along. And are you feeling like the pace is okay? I mean, I think some people have thought maybe it was going to move a little bit more quickly than it has.
Well, we had the recession in the way.
Yes, we did.
And so during the recession, we had a lot of people wanting to do things in there, and they just couldn't get the financing. And so, and those people went away. And so we have, we're really fortunate that we have some new people looking around and wanting to do some things. I think that we're, this time around, I think that these developers will be a little bit more successful because financing is there. We're really ready for development in our city. And for those who are really a little scared of all the people coming in, well, the people are coming in. We're going to have a light rail station. Whether or not we want growth, it's going to happen. So I would rather be prepared for that growth and have growth grow the way we want it to, rather than have it come to us and drown us in the type of buildings that we really don't want to see in our city. You know, we have, it would be nice if we had a coherent city. Mm-hmm. I just keep thinking that if we didn't have any set design standards, we might end up with what was a blob in Lower Queen Anne.
Right.
You know, somebody might just come in and just build that, and we wouldn't be able to even say no.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll have a nice looking town center, city center when all of this is done.
And, you know, one thing that I remember sitting in a meeting about a while ago, earlier this year, there was talk about what's going to go in to replace the Rogers Market building, mm-hmm. and some discussion about, well, how tall should we make that building? If the developers mm-hmm. kind of talked about making, you know, with 12 stories mm-hmm. or maybe even a little taller. And I think some people were a little bit surprised by that height. And I guess I'm kind of curious to know, is that something that you think is appropriate for that place? Do you think that's something that people should keep an open mind about?
Well, I hope that people will keep an open mind because it really does have to pencil for the developer. And even if I don't want that to happen, I have to look at it in many, many different ways. And I'm thinking, well, okay, right now you can get 6 stories there. If we were to give them another story, I want something for it. Mm-hmm. And I want affordable housing units in there. I want a nice plaza. I want, there's so many things that I want the city to have, and so it's negotiating.
Right.
So if they want to go up another flight, okay, let's talk about it. What are you going to give us?
Yeah.
And I don't think they're going to go up a whole lot of flights if they have to give up a whole bunch of things.
Yeah. Okay. That's very reasonable. And let's talk a little bit about light rail, because you did mention that earlier. And of course, that's going to change the character of the city, as you mentioned, and with housing prices as they are in Seattle, bringing more people to live,
right,
because they can get on the light rail and go to Seattle for work. But I've sat through some of those council meetings where there's been a certain amount of sounds like lack of trust from council, at least some of the council, about what Sound Transit's intentions are. They're now $500 million behind schedule, or $500 million behind on budget, over budget. I can say this: $500 million over budget, and 6 months behind schedule. And of course, now people are saying, well, can we really trust them to do what they say they're going to do? And talk about will the station at Mountlake Terrace have bathrooms when they said they were going to have? And how are you feeling about that relationship with Sound Transit? Do you think that they'll the city can work with them to get what you need?
Well, I have Sound Transit presentations. I've seen them not only at our city council meeting, but at Snohomish County Tomorrow, because I'm on that board.
Yeah.
And I have seen them at Seashore Transportation Forum and at other things too. And so I sometimes see the same presentation 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
And it's a little different every time. And so I think I learn a little bit more each time that I see it. And I don't know if I don't trust some of what Sound Transit is doing, but I do know that I want them to keep their word. And if their word is they're going to be giving us a station with X amount of amenities, if they're going to take anything away, then they're going to have to take it away from all the 3 cities, and but not just Mountlake Terrace. And if they're going to give us something, then they're going to give it to all. I just want to be treated equally with the other cities. And I know they're going to have to cut corners, and I don't know what it's going to be. I just don't want it, obviously it won't be cutting safety. But I don't want them to even cut the artwork, because I don't want an ugly station.
Yeah.
I want a station that we can be proud of.
Right.
And it just seems that sometimes they just cut corners in the weirdest places. Also, I remember asking them many, many years ago, what happens if we don't get that federal money?
Right.
And I think their answer at that time was, well, we're depending on it.
Right. It's like it's not an option.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. And so now, all these years later, the question is again, what happens if we don't get that federal money?
Yeah.
So, and I thought about that. I'm going, whoa! I asked that question. I already asked that question years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think anybody can even imagine, because there's been so much planning depending on that. But good question. I guess we'll see. Right. Let's talk about another issue that people have mentioned as a concern, and is the issue of homelessness, and the fact that in every city in this area, people are seeing an increase. Mountlake Terrace, various green belts, and along the interurban trail, and have your share. Do you see any possible solutions that the city could participate in related to addressing that problem?
Yes. And because I'm on the Affordable Housing Alliance, and I'm a commissioner for Snohomish County Housing Authority, HASCO, and I've just really gone to a lot of meetings where we were talking about dealing with the homeless. And we have a one particular officer that interacts a lot with the homeless, and he has a kit, in a way, that he gives to people that has toiletries, bottled water, and some granola bars and such. And he befriends a lot of these homeless people, and so he's a lot more successful talking to them and gaining their trust. And I know that a lot of cities like to clean up the camps and the mess that they make, and then try to get them to go someplace else. Well, then it becomes another city's problem, and that's not solving anything. One of the other things is a lot of people are afraid of drug activity and with the homeless, and they're just afraid because they don't know what these people are and where they came from and so forth. But they're just regular people who just have had a hard time with life, and many of them want to get off of homelessness. And so I'm looking at services. I really, really believe in low barrier housing and giving services, and then helping them get housing a different way. And so I really hope that we can get our act together and get shelters put together where people can regroup their life and then move on, because many of these people really actually want to get jobs and make their lives better. Mm-hmm. But without an address, you can't get a job. Without a job, you can't get housing, and so it's a vicious circle.
Yeah.
So we have to really work on that.
Yeah, yeah, it is definitely a challenge that everybody's facing right now. So.
Mm-hmm.
We are at a point where it is your time to be able to address the voters and tell them why they should vote for you. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to do that right now. Go ahead.
There's so many things that I want to accomplish in our city, and I think that I started a lot of it. I would like to see it come to fruition. I've been on the council for almost 10 years right now, and I'm still working on, again, City Hall, light rail, working with getting our city ready for the density that we really need for light rail. And I want to be there to make sure that we do it the right way, and help out the new people coming in, help out the businesses that are coming in. Economic growth is going to happen, and I just want to be able to be around to help with all of that. And I hope that a lot of the people in our city have seen what we've done, and I'd like to continue that, and I really ask for everyone's vote.
Kyoko Matsumoto Wright, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Best wishes for the election.
Thank you very much.